Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. I just wanted to kind of make an announcement right now. It seems like we had a mix-up with the link that got sent out. So all of the attendees of the meeting are signing in under the name Juan Gomez Novi. You should be able to change your name as an attendee. If you're unable to, that's okay. When it comes to the point when we do the chat, or if you have any questions, just raise your hand and one of our techs will call on you. And when we call on you to speak, just make sure to say your name. If you send a chat message, just make sure to put your name in the chat, and that way we can record who's there. I apologize for the mix-up, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Leonard Bechet, and I'm a senior planner with the Community Development Department. And tonight's workshop is the first of 3 community workshops that we'll be holding that are associated with the creation of the Downtown Burbank Transit-Oriented Development, or TOD specific plan. The main purpose of tonight's workshop is to share information, including an overview of the project, identification of the challenges and opportunities within the project area, and an introduction of the draft vision and guiding principles for the project. We will provide multiple opportunities for your input and questions throughout. Tonight, we have several staff members online from the Community Development Department, as well as from our consultant team. I'll go ahead and list off the names so that we may keep the presentation moving forward. From the city, we have Fred Ramirez, Scott Plambeck, Greg Mirza-Avakian, Maciel Medina, David Kim, and Karen Chavez. And from our consultant team, we have Stefanos Palazoides and Juan Gomez Novi from the firm of Mole and Palazoides. Next slide, please. Before we continue any further, we want to provide instruction to those who may need translation services this evening. We have the ability to do translation for either Spanish or Armenian. First, we'll start with Maciel Medina, who will be providing Spanish translation for us. Maciel, can you please explain to us the instructions in Spanish?
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Maciel Medina y estaré ayudando a cualquier persona que necesite traducción al español. Si desea escuchar la presentación en español, haga clic en el botón de la pantalla que se muestra aquí en la diapositiva y seleccione español. También haga clic en el silenciar audio original que se muestra con la flecha roja para que solo me escuche hablar en español. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maciel. And now we will hear from Greg Mirza-Avakian, who will be providing Armenian translation. Greg, can you please explain the instructions on Armenian?
Բարի երեկո, եթե ցանկանում եք լսել ներկայացումը հայերեն լեզվով, խնդրում ենք սեղմել ձեր էկրանին գտնվող կոճակը եւ ընտրել ֆրանսերեն, հայերեն ընտրություն չկար։ Խնդրում ենք նաեւ սեղմել կարմիր սլակով ցույց տված mute original audio, որպեսզի ելույթը հնչի միայն հայերեն։ Եթե դուք ուզում եք լսեք ներկայացումը հայերեն լեզվով, խնդրում ենք բարձրացրեք ձեր ձեռքը կամ ներքևը chat box սեղմեք կոճակը եւ գրեք, որ հայերեն եք ուզում։ Շնորհակալություն շատ։
Okay, if anybody would like translation, please either raise your hand or send us a chat and let us know which language you'd like us to turn on. Okay, well, I'm seeing no raised hands or no chats, so we'll go ahead and move forward. If anybody comes onto the call or if anybody feels that they need either Spanish or Armenian translation, let us know, and we have both Maciel and Greg standing by. So we'll go ahead and move forward. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so this evening's workshop is scheduled to last for approximately 2 hours and will include time for questions and comments. Throughout the presentation, we'll also be conducting several live polls that you may respond to from your computer or cell phone confidentially. The presentation will start with a brief overview of the Downtown Burbank TOD specific plan, followed by a presentation of the analysis of the project area and concluding with an introduction of the draft project guiding principles and vision statement. Next slide, please. We're hoping that technology runs smoothly tonight for everyone, but please bear with us if we do experience any technical difficulties. As an attendee of this webinar, your video is turned off and your audio will automatically be muted. You will have an opportunity to provide voice comments during the question and/or comment sessions. Instruction will be provided at the start of each comment session. You may leave written comments anytime during the webinar by pressing the chat button in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Again, since everybody has the same name, just go ahead and leave us your name if you do choose to leave us a chat message. The workshop is being recorded and will be available on the Downtown TOD website following the webinar at www.downtownburbanktod.com. Next slide, please. Again, you may provide feedback during the question and/or comment sessions of the webinar. You may submit comments anytime during the webinar by using the chat feature, or you may submit comments via the project website at www.downtownburbanktod.com, or by emailing me, the project planner, at lbechet, let me spell that for you, it's L-B-E-C-H-E-T, at burbankca.gov. Due to the amount of time we have for tonight's webinar, we will only be able to take a limited number of live questions and/or comments. A list of comments and questions, including answers submitted via the chat feature, and for those that we don't get to in the live portion, will be available on the project website in the coming days after this webinar. We have also prepared an interactive survey that you may be able to access on the project website. The English version is up today, and we'll have Spanish and Armenian versions of that interactive survey up in the coming days. Next slide, please. I'll now provide an overview of the project. Next slide. There are two planning documents in place that guide the land uses for downtown Burbank: the Burbank Center Plan and the San Fernando Boulevard Master Plan, adopted in 1997 and 2012, respectively. While both plans were effective at the time of adoption, they are no longer effective to help the city address the housing and affordability crisis it is currently facing. The city applied for and was awarded grant funding from Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transit Authority, or Metro, and the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, to update and combine both plans to create a new downtown Burbank TOD specific plan. The city of Burbank ranks high in terms of cost of housing and has one of the lowest vacancy rates in Los Angeles County, making it difficult for Burbank's workforce and individuals and families of low and moderate income levels to find affordable housing in the city. The city's 45,000 residential units are far below the number needed to house the 130,000 plus people who currently work in Burbank. To meet this scarcity, the City Council has set a goal to introduce 12,000 new dwelling units citywide by the year 2035. This shortage of housing and associated lack of affordability is also an issue at the statewide concern. The state has mandated that more housing be produced locally. Burbank's Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or RHNA, allocation requires that the production of 8,700 units over the next 8 years. Next slide, please. The long-range planning effort that we are starting tonight creates an opportunity for the community to re-envision downtown, which is a major employment and entertainment center for the city. Over the coming months, the city will engage the community and decision-makers on developing a shared vision and guiding principles that establishes objective standards and clear community expectations for future responsible development that builds a safe, beautiful, and thriving downtown, while also achieving City Council affordable housing strategies that include building 12,000 units in the next 15 years and meeting state-mandated housing production numbers, thereby reflecting Burbank's unique approach of maintaining local control while helping to build and protect neighborhoods. Next slide, please. I'll now provide an overview of the project schedule. The specific plan preparation process consists of 5 key phases: discovery, visioning, plan preparation, public review of the plan and EIR, and adoption. We are at the very beginning of the process. We have conducted the existing document review and the physical analysis that have informed this presentation and are in the process of preparing the the market, utilities, and parking analyses. This phase includes the Discovery Community Workshop, which you are all participating with us this evening. And the Discovery phase will be followed by the Visioning phase, which will include an additional Community Visioning Workshop that will be held on December 17th. A combined Final Alternatives Community Workshop and CEQA Scoping meeting will be held in early 2021. With community input, the creation of the specific plan and EIR will begin in spring 2021, with the public review of the two documents occurring towards the end of summer 2021. Adoption of the specific plan and certification of the EIR will occur by the end of 2021. Next slide, please. And now I'll provide an overview of the project area. The approximately 662-acre plan area is generally bounded by Lake Street, Victory Boulevard, and Mariposa Street to the west, San Fernando Boulevard and Amherst Drive to the north, Glen Oaks Boulevard and 5th Street to the east, and the city boundary to the south. It is split in half by the I-5 freeway and the Southern Pacific Railroad right-of-way. As already mentioned, the plan area encompasses two existing adopted planning areas, the 1997 Burbank Center Plan and the 2012 North San Fernando Boulevard Master Plan. These two plans will be replaced upon the adoption of this Downtown Burbank TOD specific plan. I will now turn the presentation over to Stefanos Palazoides, who will provide us with an overview of the challenges and benefits of the project and and present the draft vision and guiding principles for the project.
Can you imagine that? Okay, I'm actually muted. Can you imagine that? I'm Stefanos Palazoides, and I'm heading the team, the consultant team for this project. And I would like to have the next slide, please. The next set of images are part of an analysis process that our team conducted regarding the challenges and opportunities for developing a more coherent mixed-use downtown Burbank. Next, please. Let's start with the challenges first. On the challenges front, we observed a weak sense of place due to too much residual open space, few commanding buildings, and very few completed streetscapes of any note. The presence of mainly commercial buildings that were designed in the 70s, 80s, and 90s contributes to a rather generic architectural character. Next, please. There is a poor relationship generally between buildings and the street and sidewalk set of places downtown. In green, you can see the few pedestrian-oriented frontages where buildings relate properly to streets, and sidewalks mostly along San Fernando Boulevard in the core of the current downtown. In red are pedestrian hostile frontages, mostly buildings that are very long and blank in relation to the street and to the sidewalk. In black, you can see the areas of downtown where there are no building frontages at all. These are mainly parking lots. You can see how much of this frontage set in the downtown is either black or red. Next slide, please. There is scarce open space and missing street trees. There's a deficiency in parks and beautiful streetscapes, as I've said before. There are robust parks to the north and to the west. There's only one coherent pedestrian-oriented streetscape of mature street trees, and that's along San Fernando Boulevard. All the others are either incomplete or not there at all. Next, please. There is excess asphalt cover. This is an important issue because there are environmental deficits that are observed that follow on this particular observation. Most importantly, asphalt covers about 30 to 40% of the plan area, either in parking lots or streets, and generates a heat island effect, which in the summer can raise the temperature by as much as 10 degrees and produce several adverse health risks due to air pollution that are measurable at 1,000 feet from the freeway in plan and 300 feet from major streets. Next one, please. There's also poor connectivity across the freeway. One of the key items in the specific plan design is going to be how to actually cross the freeway and connect properly, not only from one side to the other, but also to the Metrolink station. Next, please. Finally, next, please. Yeah. Finally, the current code is outdated and confusing. It emphasizes commercial over residential uses, contains contradictory, complicated, and ineffective standards, and its floor area ratio basis causes unpredictable building form in relating new buildings to existing ones. But let's look now at the opportunities. Next slide, please. There is, of course, no such thing as a place that does not offer advantages to consider in planning and design. Next. The 3 blocks of San Fernando Boulevard are the seed of a good downtown. The first of downtown's important advantages is that this shopping and entertainment district allows for the expansion of the location and the expansion of the new downtown. It is an excellent place to develop at the heart and mind of the people. It is an excellent place, very much in the heart and mind of people, as being the core of your city. It's an impression already very much in place. Next, have the next slide, please. There are many opportunity sites for infill. There are a number of potential development sites within the downtown, including opportunity sites that are identified by the city, and additional sites through plan area identified by the project team. These can accommodate a very serious number of infill housing and mixed-use projects. Next. There is a very high demand for future mixed-use housing. This is true in Burbank, as it is true everywhere in Southern California, but it's particularly true here because of the excellent position of the downtown, the excellent location of the downtown. Next. The very wide rights-of-way on arterial roads downtown can allow for the transformation of the public realm. And why they're a challenge on the one hand, on the other, they allow the possibility of restructuring streets in a way that does not impede parking or traffic, but generates a much stronger vision for the downtown. Let's look at a couple of examples. Next slide. Here's an example from another city where a very wide right-of-way is transformed simply by introducing restriping, planting, and a landscape median, a very similar condition like the one we're facing in Burbank. Next, please. Next, please. So we've come to the point where we need you to help us vision the downtown, and we're going to need your input in assessing a number of planning principles or ingredients that we'd like to incorporate in the future plan. So based on the city's goals and the existing issues and opportunities that I just described, we developed these 15 guiding principles to help us with the preparation and implementation of this plan, and we'd like you to weigh in and tell us how important each of them is to your sense about how the future of the city should be determined. So next, please. We have the guiding principles divided into 5 categories: neighborhood and district, building, in plural, neighborhoods and districts, let's say, buildings, open space, streets, and parking. After each individual guiding principle, we request that you respond to a poll, a very, very simple poll, that asks you how important each particular guiding principle is to you. And at the end of the 5 categories, we will ask you to provide comments. You may provide a voice comment, or you may write a message using the chat feature. And we'll need to limit voice comments to 2 or 3 per category, although you'll have an opportunity to discuss this further after the 15 guiding principles have been fully presented and responded to. So let's go through with this and start this exchange. Let's start with neighborhoods and districts. Thank you. And next slide, please. And take the first principle. The first principle is maintain and enhance downtown's prominent shopping and entertainment offerings. As an important regional destination, an economic generator. The influx of new residents and employees will add more activity to downtown, and as the San Fernando shopping district's sense of place is expanded, even more visitors will be attracted to this future downtown. Please let us know how important this guiding principle is to you via this poll.
Good evening. Each poll questions will be open for 30 seconds. After the closing of each poll question, I will be able to share with you all the results. So here's the first poll question. So the first poll question is, please rate, maintain, and enhance downtown's prominent shopping and entertainment offerings. You can choose not at all important, slightly important, important, fairly important, very important, or no opinion. I will give you about 30 seconds. Please cast your vote. Thank you. I'll give it about another 10 seconds. Okay, I will end the poll right now and share the result. So we had about 1% slightly important, 6% slightly important, 28% important, 61% very important, and 6% no opinion. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you, David. Can I have the next slide, please? So here's the second principle. Create safe, distinct, beautiful, and thriving neighborhoods and districts through the introduction of enhanced streetscape, high-quality buildings, and extraordinary public places. The character of each neighborhood is determined by the types of buildings, their uses, their massing, and their heights, as well as the adjacent streetscapes. Taller, mixed-use buildings in the core, office and media-related buildings west of the freeway near the Metrolink station and the power plant, and lower-scale residential buildings near single-family residential neighborhoods. Please let us know how important this guiding principle is to you via the next poll.
So here is poll question number 2. Please rate, create safe, distinct, beautiful, and thriving neighborhoods and districts. Please cast your votes. I'll give it about another 10 seconds. Okay, I will end the poll and share the results. So 17% rated important, 11% fairly important, 72% very important. Okay, thank you.
And this is the third and last principle in the category neighborhoods and districts, and it is the following: protect existing single-family residential neighborhoods surrounding the plan area from pass-through traffic, overflow parking, and incompatible development. This will depend on how buildings, streets, and parking within the downtown are designed and conceived. New buildings must respect their context, enough parking must be provided, and streets must be designed to direct traffic properly. So please vote on this poll as well, the poll coming up. Thank you.
Okay, so here is poll question number 3. Please rate protect existing single-family neighborhoods. Please cast your votes. Give it another 10 seconds. Okay, I will end the poll and share. So 19% slightly important, 19% important, 13% fairly important, and 50% very important. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you, David. And now we're going to open up this discussion to comments or questions on this principles regarding neighborhoods and districts. Please raise your hand by pressing on the participants icon and selecting raise hands. Or alternatively, you can send a text message by pressing the chat button. We'll be answering addressing these questions as they come in. Do we have any comments?
Yes, there is one.
Can you please read it for me because I cannot see it?
So there are two
Oh,
questions.
okay. I'm sorry. I was caught in the Juan Gomez Novi discussions. Okay, so here we go. There is one at 9:25. There is a question. I don't understand the question. Please elaborate. I think we missed that. I don't understand which question that is. What's the first, second, or third question? The next one for the first slide, that includes restaurants as well. Yes, I think that includes restaurants as well. Next, where are you building new housing, and will it affect any other structures? We'll be building new housing in areas that are devoid of any buildings, or on sites that have buildings that could be are insignificant and could be demolished. We will not be building in areas that are well developed and which do not necessarily need to be changed. Question: can we keep downtown as a pedestrian zone? Some pieces of downtown could become pedestrian zones. I think this is an aspect that we can discuss in the future, but there are many other options than just a pedestrian zone. One could be a zone that is changeable from a pedestrian to traffic zone depending on the day of the week and the particular time of the day. There are two other questions, or rather the first guiding principle. Okay.
I'm going to step in for a moment, Stefanos. If you're sending us comments, make sure to put your name in the comment. That way we know who to, we can call out if we need to. We actually do have one question that I'll go ahead and read, and we'll take a break from the chat for right now. And those of you that are putting the comments in the chat, it's great. If we can't answer it tonight, we will make sure to provide a response in the coming days after the meeting. So keep the comments coming, but just make sure to put your name in there so we can identify you. And feel free to raise your hand because we do have time for you to make your live comments if you'd like. So I'd also want to encourage you to do that as well.
So were you going to read a
yes.
question?
So this is a question that was posted from John Sagali. So the question is reducing travel lane, or the comment is reducing travel lanes to accommodate trees and median landscaping is not a good idea because it reduces vehicular capacity. Los Angeles tried it and it failed. You can't force people to get out of their cars and walk, bike, etc. So I'll go ahead and field this one. Thank you for the comment, John. And we do agree that we have to be careful with how we balance out the closure of streets. We would actually be making sure to keep this kind of in line with the recently approved Complete Streets Plan that contains a lot of different information and proposals for how to reduce auto traffic, not get rid of it completely, but make it more safe for pedestrians and bicyclists, because we do have a lot of people in downtown, a lot of seniors that live in the many housing developments that we have that still walk. And we have a lot of people that ride their bicycles. So we want to make sure to make the streets safe for them. And that's one of the issues that we've identified is just the safety with the automobiles and the cars and bikes. So thank you for that comment, and we'll be sure to keep that in mind as we look at changes as we work on this plan moving forward.
Shall we take a couple of more questions, Leonard?
Yeah. Karen, if you want to read another few of the chat questions, we can do that.
Hearing no questions being asked, let me read. Is there a plan to increase density? I think the issues of density will be discussed in greater detail in the second workshop, but I would say not beyond those anticipated in the general plan. Some of the parking lots are on properties that are privately owned and have been sitting vacant. How can we improve those areas if the private owner will not update their property? Well, I think that will be done generally through the enticement of a more workable and easy to execute zoning code and the kinds of incentives that are provided to landowners. It's not possible to make people do anything at all on their properties if they don't wish to, but there is a prospect here of being able to utilize land for significant infill housing and mixed-use projects. On the question about McCambridge Park, I think we will be talking about particulars that are locational, specific to places within the downtown in the next workshop. Today we want to hear about all this process from you, and we'll be noting this an area that you think needs serious redevelopment as you are suggesting. Need to avoid canyons like Glendale with ridiculous congestion almost any time of the day. This is noted. Thank you. Will you be using LEED standards to influence your design? Dion asks. It is a possibility that we will be doing that. So your comment is also very welcome and noted. Don't forget ease in traversing sidewalk as a mobility challenge. That is important. I think we need to find a way to allow, as Leonard just said, to allow pedestrians to cross streets while not frustrating the general smooth circulation of vehicles. I think that's an issue that our traffic engineers will be attending to along with us. And finally, from Luan, street design is very important and depends on the use and traffic on the streets. Pedestrian-friendly cities would have amenities within a quarter-mile walking radius. This is an important subject. We see the downtown as being a mixed-use place with people living and working within such walkable radius. And under current conditions, San Fernando Boulevard is within such a general dimensional distance from many adjacent housing projects and neighborhoods in its vicinity. So we will be following up on this very basic town-making principles that this question suggests. And thank you for that question, and thank you all for your questions on this subject. So let's, having no other questions stated, let's on neighborhoods and districts, let's move to buildings. Let's look at the guiding building principles for buildings. The first one, next slide, is to promote compact, sustainable, transit-oriented infill development with new well-designed residential mixed-use buildings that enhance the pedestrian environment, are within walking and biking distance of the downtown Metrolink station and other prominent bus routes, reflect Burbank's unique history, culture, and character, and catalyze additional development and investment in the downtown. Please give us our comments through the poll that is going to come up on your screen.
Okay, so this is poll question number 4. Please rate, promote compact, sustainable, transit-oriented infill development. Please cast your votes. Ten more seconds. Okay, I will end the poll and share. So 11% voted slightly important, 21% important, 11% fairly important, and 58% very important. Thank you.
Thank you all. Let's have the next slide. Introduce much needed housing at all levels of affordability, including affordable market rate rental and ownership housing that helps mitigate Burbank's out of balance jobs to housing ratio and meets state mandates for introducing more housing. Because of its location in the center of the city, this new housing will have convenient access to downtown jobs, shopping, services, transit, and open spaces. It's going to be a very desirable location, in other words. So please let us know through the next poll what you think on the subject.
This is poll question number 5. Please rate, introduce much needed housing at all levels of affordability. Please cast your votes. 10 more seconds. Okay, I will close the poll now. So 5% said not at all important, 21% slightly important, 16% fairly important, 53% very important, and 5% no opinion. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next slide, please. This is the last slide in the category of guiding principles called buildings. Design mixed-use buildings with pedestrian-friendly ground floors, street-facing windows and entries, quality materials, and varied massing. As discussed in the analysis, buildings that present blank walls to the street generate a pedestrian-hostile environment, and large crew-cut buildings that are flat and of one massing configuration, can overwhelm the surroundings. The antidote is buildings that provide a friendly face to the street, the sidewalk, to public open spaces, and to their neighbors. Please give us our opinion on this principle as well.
Okay, so this is poll question number 6. Please rate design mixed-use buildings with pedestrian-friendly ground floors, street-facing windows and entries, quality materials, and varied massings. Please cast your votes. Ten seconds. Okay, I will end the poll. So 10% slightly important, 25% important, 65% very important. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you indeed. We've come to the end of the category of guiding principles called buildings. And now it's time for questions and comments. Please raise your hand by pressing on the participant's icon and selecting raise hand, or send us a text message by pressing the chat button. I think we understand how difficult it is to communicate under these conditions, but we're looking forward to your questions and eager to provide direction and answers.
So while everybody is kind of doing that, I just wanted to address a couple of questions that I'm seeing come through about what is planned for specific areas of downtown. Unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, I should say tonight we don't yet have the plan actually completed. So really what we're looking at tonight is just making sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what we feel are what should be the guiding principles to kind of guide our work in the specific plan as we start working on it next year. Our next workshop will be more of a visioning workshop where we'll actually show you some different images and give you some different ideas that we have in terms of what downtown will look like. And then our final workshop will kind of put everything together, all of the feedback that we've gotten from the workshops, and kind of give you a blueprint, if you will, of the plan. So it'll be several months before we know specifics for different areas. But that doesn't mean that you can't kind of let us know what areas concern you. So what we'll do is we'll just keep note of it. And one of the areas that I'm seeing is Victory Boulevard and Olive. And that is an area that we are studying a lot more closely in our plan because we do see that as an opportunity site to allow for future development. So in the next workshop, we'll share some of those sites with you and give you some more information. But again, I appreciate all of the comments. We're getting a lot of good information, a lot of good comments, and a lot of things for us to consider. So I'll go ahead, and I see one hand raised. So Karen, if you want to call that person, and we'll see if we can get a live comment going.
Yes, you can now unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Great. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Great. Thank you. Hi. Thank you for doing this workshop tonight. My name is Tamala Takahashi, and I'm a 21-year resident of Burbank, and we live over on the west side of the Burbank city. For the number 4 and number 6 guiding principles, referring to the mixed-use buildings, in Burbank, the mixed-use buildings that we generally have here are the larger scale ones, very large developments with many residential units and ground floor shopping, which is great. But I'm wondering if in your plan for downtown, if you could consider medium-sized and small mixed-use buildings, and especially in areas that are not the central downtown area, but the outside areas of downtown. They're more appropriate mixed-use buildings in those areas, are the smaller ones, and they're much needed also as well. And mixed use can be, of course, both residential and commercial together, or you can have different kinds of commercial too. So you can have on the bottom floor be retail commercial, on the top be office space, for example. On that note as well, one of the things that we face here sometimes in Burbank, and you may be getting to this later, is that some of the ground floor businesses are office space. And I think in the downtown area, it would be great to have the first floor be almost uniquely public service, like restaurants and retail and entertainment, and then have the office space on the second floor or above. That way the front facing looks more pleasant and the space is still there for office space. So those are my comments about the mixed use, but I'm particularly interested in the smaller scale mixed use and seeing more of those in the city. Thank you.
Thank you for your very useful comments, both of them. It is our intention to consider buildings of different intensities and different forms within the downtown and locate them appropriately. And this is something that we're going to have to ask you for your advice. And in the workshop that is coming, this is what Leonard was suggesting in his comments previous to mine. And on the question of the ground floor retail, there are, as you know, there are difficulties these days with the concentration of retail, including in great urban places like Burbank. To the degree possible, I think that that continuous store, restaurant, entertainment activity is desirable the closer one comes to the very center of a downtown. And to that end, we'll be thinking about how to make sure that as the downtown evolves, develops further, consolidates itself, that there is some very coherent area of first-class retail activity, commercial activity on the ground floor that is not necessarily office.
And let me just add something to that. Thank you for that comment. It was a very good comment. Yes, the one thing I would say is, yeah, you have seen a lot of large projects in the last few years, only because we have a few large sites that have been vacant and have turned over. But one of our goals would be to accommodate not only the big projects but also the smaller projects, so that we could get a range. And really, the thing that we're looking at is making sure that we're able to protect the existing neighborhoods that have been established around downtown, and even some of the neighborhoods that are in downtown, but also finding ways that we can sensitively allow for additional housing units to be placed into those neighborhoods, especially the ones that are within the downtown core, just because they are the ones that are the closest to the Metrolink station. And that's one of the goals, is to try to capitalize on that connection. And that's why we want to try to make it safer for people to walk and to bike, and for those to live in downtown and be able to get around the rest of the city and the region by using the transportation options that are available to them. So thank you for that comment. And yes, we will be looking at getting those, a different variety of projects accommodated.
Do we have any other raised hands or messages?
No, Stefanos, I think we're good. We can go ahead and move on.
Okay, thank you, Leonard. So let's get on to the next set of principles, which have to do with the public realm. Next slide, please. So the public realm consists of the space between buildings and includes parks, plazas, and other open spaces, as well as streets. So this first principle suggests that downtown streets currently favor the automobile. I'm sorry, I've lost my order here for a second. Create a safe. Okay, the seventh principle is create a safe pedestrian and bike-friendly environment with wide sidewalks, generous street cover, outdoor dining, and safe pedestrian crossings. Key to successful downtowns and their surrounding neighborhoods is inviting sidewalks that people enjoy walking along, that provide ample shade, and that can accommodate activities such as outdoor dining. Crosswalks with short crossing distances, and depending on the location, dedicated pedestrian cross times further enhance the overall pedestrian experience. Critical to this environment, this kind of environment, is pedestrian-friendly ground floors of buildings that face streets and sidewalks with inviting shop fronts or residential stoops. So please let us know how you feel about this principle.
Okay, so this is poll question number 7. Please rate. Create a safe pedestrian and bike-friendly environment with wide sidewalks, generous street cover, outdoor dining, and safe pedestrian crossings. Please cast your vote. Ten seconds. Okay, I will end the poll. So 10% as slightly important, 25% at important, 65% at very important. Thank you.
Thank you all. Let's have the next slide. The 8th principle is using streets and alleys as public space. Streets, of course, are generally designed for moving vehicles, whether they're cars, bikes, or buses, but they can also accommodate a variety of pedestrian-oriented activities. Parklets, which extend the adjacent sidewalk into on-street parking spaces, can accommodate outdoor dining or informal outdoor seating areas. Streets can also be closed down for important events, such as Burbank's annual car show, farmers markets, and the like. Alleys can also be transformed into pedestrian paseos. Truly successful ones are faced by stores, restaurants, and entertainment venues. So give us your thoughts about this principle, please.
Okay, so poll question number 8. Please rate use streets and alleys as public space. Please cast your votes. Okay, about 5 more seconds. Okay, I will end the poll. So about 16% at not at all important, 21% slightly important, 11% important, 11% fairly important, and 42% very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go on to principle number 9. That's the 3rd principle of the public realm part of our discussion. Conceive of streets as linear parks that connect different parts of downtown and utilize sustainable streetscape design and stormwater capture. Sustainable streetscape design can reduce outdoor ambient temperatures, lower heating and cooling bills, improve air quality, and capture and cleanse stormwater. The Burbank Water and Power Building is employing such innovative strategies to capture and cleanse stormwater, as well to direct runoff to tree roots. Similar strategies can be extended to downtown streets and future open spaces. Please take a poll on this subject as well.
Okay, poll question number 9. Please rate conceive of streets as linear parks that connect different parts of downtown and utilize sustainable streetscape design and stormwater capture. Please cast your votes. About 10 more seconds. Okay, I will end the poll. So 18% at not at all important, 12% at slightly important, 12% at important, 59% at very important. Thank you.
Great. So this is the last of the 4 principles under public realm. Introduce community benefits and public improvements, including parks, that support downtown's growing resident, worker, and visitor population. As mentioned previously, meaningful open space is missing from the downtown core. Open space will be critical as more people live and work in downtown. These spaces can also be important destinations for shoppers, visitors, and others, and accommodate special events. The expanded Civic Center provides an opportunity to introduce a civic park or plaza near City Hall. Some of the planned areas opportunity sites can also accommodate such open space. This is an important issue. Please give us your thoughts on it.
Okay, so this is poll question number 10. Please rate introduce community benefits and public improvements, including parks that support downtown's growing resident, worker, and visitor population. Please cast your votes. Ten seconds. Okay, I will end the poll. And so 24% at not at all important, 6% at slightly important, 6% at fairly important, and 65% at very important. Thank you.
Well, thank you all on completing the public realm portion of our discussion. Now we can open it up for comments and questions. Again, you can raise your hand or send us a text.
The first speaker can now unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hello, thank you again for allowing me this opportunity to speak. This is Tamala Takahashi. I have a few comments about these slides. Thank you for presenting them, and I'm really excited to see these included. For number 7, talking about sidewalks, I wanted to just add in there thoughts about strollers, wheelchairs, and other kinds of mobility and being able to use those on the sidewalks. And I also wanted to mention that when I answered this poll and for number 7, I did put very important, but when I looked at those pictures that you gave as examples, those really to me look like the core downtown area, but some of the other areas that are in the downtown plan would not necessarily need that much attention to pedestrian needs. I think some of them maybe not as much. So depending on which area of the downtown plan, I think for me, I would have answered differently on that. So it might be something to consider. For the adaptability of the streets, number 8, adaptability of the streets for pedestrian use for events and things, that's absolutely essential. I'm so glad you included that. I also wanted to just put in the notes for this that closing off the streets downtown has been difficult to do and expensive. So in thinking about designing streets to be adaptable for events and whatnot, maybe also think about how easy it is or how feasible it is to close streets down without too much expense or too much effort to make it easier to do for those kinds of events, or to change the street dynamic fairly easily. And then lastly, on number 10, talking about open space. This one is probably one of the higher issues for me downtown, is having open space. And I wanted to just point out that a few days ago, Park and Rec Department had a similar kind of workshop, and they spoke about the same exact issue of putting open space downtown. So as we're going through this process, I think it might be a really good idea to talk to the Park and Rec and coordinate with them about that process. And also the library, Burbank Public Library, is working on potentially having a new central library built in the Civic Center. And that plan also has public space integrated into their plan as well. So all three of these efforts, I think, would go really nicely together to create a really robust, usable public space with green space. And I also wanted to point out not just the green space for people to hang out, but for families in particular, and places for children to be downtown, because there really isn't a play area or a place that children can run around and play. And I think that's an important part to add to the green and open space too. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. I'm going to repeat summarizing the points that you made, just to make sure that you hear that we understood them and will take them into consideration. The first one was that different parts of the downtown need to be developed in terms of their public realm in differential ways. They don't all have to be exactly the same. Actually, be desirable for them to be different from one from the other. The streets need to be adaptable, but also be so designed as to be easily changeable from one set of conditions to another. And the third one is that new open space has to be also placed in ways that responds to the needs of different parts of downtown, and it's usable by different kinds of people at different times, and also corresponds to plans and ideas being developed through other parallel processes, planning and design processes in the center of the city at this point. So these are extremely useful comments, and we heard them loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll just reiterate, thank you, Tamala, again, for your good comments. Yes, this plan will look at accommodating a addition to the Civic Center with the library. So we'll look at finding ways to accommodate not only the new library, but also some open space that would go along with it. And as one of the things that we will be exploring, and you've kind of seen it come through on some of the larger projects that have been approved by the council, the 777 Front Street and the First Street Village. Both of those projects did include, as part of their community benefits package, open space that will be maintained by the developers, but it will be publicly accessible. And for the Front Street, that open space would be just south or north of the Magnolia Street overpass. And then for the First Street Village at the corner of Magnolia and First Street on the opposite side of the freeway, there's also a park that will be included into that. So yes, that is something that we do see as important in increasing that outdoor open space, not only for the workers, but for the visitors, for the families, and all those that are here, because that is something that we do see as a need for downtown Burbank. And then, of course, on the comment regarding the sidewalks, yes, that is one thing we're looking at. We want to be able to get to a point to where we can provide some decorative, beautiful sidewalks, But we also want to make sure that our users that are in wheelchairs or have strollers or other mobility devices can still safely use them and it won't cause any impediments to them. So thank you for that comment as well.
There is one comment by Chris Vrakalos. Will you be changing any zoning on existing buildings?
We will be rethinking zoning conditions throughout the downtown area, and this is going to be one of the important points of discussion in the next workshop, because the location and designation of how buildings might be built in the future by both their volume and their standards, their uses, their standards, how they're going to be formed in the future is going to have to be regulated through zoning of a different kind than that is in place right now. And so we will begin with a number of options in the next workshop, and in the third workshop we'll be providing final recommendations about how we might be able to transform the zoning to generate the kinds of environments, both open space, landscape, and particularly building environments that we want to see generated in the downtown.
And just to add to that one from the city side, we see that, yes, as something that will happen. As to how much of the zoning will change, like Stefano said, that's something that we still have to work through. The one thing I will point out is that we don't have a downtown that is like completely in need of a total makeover. We have, for the most part, a downtown that works and functions, albeit within the core area, what we would call the civic center and the town center areas. But what really we're looking at is how to expand that area, not only to allow for more opportunities for housing, but also to kind of strengthen the existing businesses. Because we do have a lot of well-established businesses, industrial, commercial, entertainment, that we still want to keep as part of the downtown. So that's going to be a very delicate review that we do now and kind of as we work forward to make sure that we can encourage the area to grow, but still preserve what works in downtown. Okay, and I think that's all the comments we have. So, Stefanos, we can go ahead and move forward.
Let's do the next one. Let's have the next slide, please. Thank you. It's on a set of principles regarding streets. Item 11, the 11th principle, is to balance and enhance pedestrian, bicycle, transit, vehicular, and alternative transportation modes within and to downtown. Downtown streets currently favor the automobile. In addition, many of the parcels identified for potential redevelopment or development are located more than a quarter-mile walking distance from the Metrolink station. This means that other modes will be needed to bridge the first and last mile from and to the station and from the station. This includes bicycles, buses, Uber and Lyft, and possibly a trolley system that could connect to the Empire Center and/or Burbank's Media District. It's an important principle, and please let us know what you think about it in the next poll.
Here's the poll question. Please rate balance pedestrian, bicycle, transit, vehicular, and alternative transportation modes within and to the downtown. Please cast your votes. About 10 seconds. Okay, I will end the poll right now. So 15% at not at all important, 8% at slightly important, 8% important, 69% very important. Thank you.
Thank you all. Let's have the next image. That's principle number 12, provide safe and inviting streets for walking, biking, and riding transit, while reducing the need for vehicle trips and increasing transit ridership. Downtown streets will vary by the neighborhood or district they're located in, by the buildings and uses that line them, and by the anticipated transportation modes that they accommodate, whether pedestrians, bicycles, buses, or cars. Let's have the next poll, please.
Okay, so this is poll question. Please rate, provide safe and inviting streets for walking, biking, riding transit while reducing the need for vehicle trips and increasing transit. Please cast your votes. Ten seconds. Okay, I will end the poll right now. So 17% not at all important, 17% slightly important, 8% fairly important, and 58% very important.
David, this did not appear on the screen.
I apologize.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, very good.
So I
people
will
get
give it a little moment to look
a
at it.
visual sense of it. That's good. That's great.
Thank you.
All right, and let's have the next slide. Thank you. Thank you all. The next slide is the 13th principle, is the third principle under the category streets, and the last one. Enhance pedestrian and bike connections across the freeway between downtown and the Metrolink station. Sidewalks across existing freeway bridges are narrow, have uncomfortably low railings, and are located right next to fast-moving traffic. Key to incentivizing people to walk or bike to the Metrolink station and from one side of the freeway to the other is to make the journey more appealing and enjoyable. In addition, the bridges can be transformed into gateway elements that announce to freeway drivers that are passing through downtown Burbank and to motorists crossing the freeway that they're entering or leaving the downtown core. Your thoughts, please, on this?
Okay, so please rate enhance connection across freeways between downtown and the metro station. Please cast your votes. Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, so 20% slightly important, 18% fairly important, 55% very important.
Thank you all very much. So now we've come to the next slide, and it's time for questions and answers on the three principles under the category streets. Please raise your hand or send us a message, and we'll be responding to your questions and comments.
Speaker number 1, you can now unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Tamala again. I feel like this is almost like a private consultation. It's wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. So for the, I think it was number 11, talking about including easier modes for bikes and other forms of transportation besides cars downtown. I just wanted to point out that currently, as far as I understand, I think bikes are not allowed downtown. So I guess maybe I'm asking a question of just how would that be updated, or is that a thought in this process of changing the laws around bicycles and how they're used downtown? And then for the discussion around buses, being able to access bus routes downtown, I think that's fabulous. And I also think that that's potentially a larger discussion beyond the downtown specific plan, because we live, like I said earlier in the meeting, we live over on the west side of the city. And for us to get downtown on the bus is a little bit of a hike to get to the bus stop, and then where maybe the bus will stop where we want it to stop or not. And so it's a bigger project than simply downtown. I just wanted to point that out. That's an issue that's in the whole city and not just downtown. And then lastly, for the bridges, I'm so happy to see that the bridges are being included in this, because that's been something that's been needed for a long time. And my kids, I have 3 kids, they're 2 adults and one's a senior in high school, and they don't drive. They ride their bikes. And to get downtown is pretty difficult for them to do over the bridge especially. So having access to downtown from the side of the city via either bus or bridge is highly favorable for this family. And I think in general, a great thing to consider. So thank you for including that in the process. And it's been something that's been needed for a long time.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. I think it is our intention in the course of this plan to visit each one of the principal streets downtown and calibrate their use by the proper allocation of functions to each right-of-way for pedestrians, for parking, for bicycles, and for lanes that can carry both buses and cars. So it's an important way of thinking about the way of using the public realm of the city, and the way in which transportation enables the city to function properly. To be properly designed and to serve the overall purpose of the downtown and its activities. On certainly the bridges are important to consider, because they're in their present form, they are barriers to the proper connection of the downtown with its surroundings, and they're barriers both in a transportational sense, as you described, but also in an emotional sense, in the sense of appearing or useful or being interpreted as places that one can walk through and over and be welcome in understanding how one passes from one part of the city to the other. So there are some very interesting design questions about how one improves these bridges, because they're of course extremely expensive to build and expensive to modify. So it's a tall order to figure out how to change these bridges, but change they should be, and any idea that you would have in the second and third workshop about how to do this specifically would be very, very welcome. Any other questions or comments?
No, there's no more.
Okay. Any clarifications from you?
I think the only thing I would say, and again, thank you for the good comment. Yeah, Stefano said that is something that we will be looking at. That is one of the key things that we are looking at, is trying to capitalize on those connections from the downtown Metrolink station to not only downtown but also to the rest of the city. And we also have another specific plan that's actually in the works and will kind of be presented in tandem. That's the Golden State specific plan area. So that will also be looking at that as well. The one thing I will say is that the pedestrian and bicycle amenities is something that the city has taken a stance on to make sure that all of the projects that preceded this project have included those in. So the Front Street project and the First Street Village project that I brought up earlier in the evening, those will provide dedicated bicycle lanes in the right-of-way. And we're also making sure to provide a wide enough right-of-way to accommodate not only walking, but also the bicycling and to provide that safety element. So again, just wanted to kind of point that out there that yes, we will be looking at those connections. Okay, so
Thank you,
we
Leonard.
can go ahead and
Thank you.
move forward.
Thank you,
and-
Leonard. Yeah, thank you, Leonard. We can take the next slide, please. So now we are headed into our last set of principles. This one is about parking. Number 14, implement a range of parking management strategies to ensure parking is available as the plan area develops and as it intensifies. This includes expanding downtown's Park One's parking district, using parking management strategies to ensure enough spaces are available, making it more appealing for workers and visitors to get downtown by means other than their personal automobile, including Uber and Lyft, thereby reducing the need for more parking spaces. Let's take a poll on this one, please.
Okay, so please rate, implement a range of parking management strategies to ensure parking is available as the planned area develops and intensifies. Please cast your votes. About 10 seconds. Okay. So 25% at slightly important, 8% at important, 25% at fairly important, and 42% at very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's have the last and complete slide for the parking cycle of principles. Provide sufficient public and on-site parking to ensure downtown parking does not spill into surrounding residential neighborhoods. New development needs to provide sufficient on-site parking or nearby parking to ensure people are not tempted to park in adjacent neighborhoods. Any parking fees also need to be reasonable so that visitors are willing to park in the downtown. Your thoughts on this, please?
Okay, please rate. Provide sufficient public and on-site parking to ensure downtown parking does not spill over into surrounding residential neighborhoods. Please cast your votes. Ten seconds. Okay. I will now close the poll. So 9% at not at all important, 18% at slightly important, 9% at important, 9% at fairly important, and 55% at very important. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you all, and we've come to the questions and comments portion of the fifth and last cycle of principles on parking. Are there any comments and questions? Your raised hands and your messages will be appreciated on this subject.
The first question from Tamala is there consideration somewhere in the plan for curb economy, meaning allowing access for deliveries, Uber drop-offs, curbside pickups to avoid blocking traffic and or safe driving, double parking, etc.?
The answer is yes. I think we're going to have to make sure that we properly plan for the proper use of the sidewalk's edge onto the street across the entire downtown, to include all of these points that you suggested, Tamala, and also, of course, to provide for parking. Any other comments?
No, there doesn't seem to be any more.
All right, so if there are no more comments, maybe we can have a few more slides and open it up for larger discussion. All these guiding principles together, all these 15 principles, direct themselves to one particular way of how downtown is envisioned, organized, and implemented over the next 20 years. This is summarized in this vision statement as it appears on this image. The vision statement is as follows: a vibrant, urban, transit-oriented, mixed-use downtown of beautiful tree-lined, multimodal streets that are safe and accessible to all, inviting parks and plazas, and beautiful buildings that together create an active and bustling central district surrounded by inviting and genuine neighborhoods, a place where people truly want to live, work, shop, visit, and play. So now we would like to have your thoughts on and comments and questions on the entire project as was presented in its first form, which is the form of the principles that we're going to pursue towards its design. So let's have a first poll. I'm sorry, I missed that point. Let's have a first poll first, and then we'll open it up to bigger questions. So what are your thoughts about the vision statement?
Stefanos, we don't have a poll for the vision statement.
Oh, I thought we did. Okay, I'm sorry. No. I didn't remember that. Apologies. So let's have a discussion then. Any comments on the vision statement?
The first speaker, you can now unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Mary Catone. I'm not sure if it's a comment on the vision statement or not, but I wondered if you could speak to how you address parking. Is there a goal to reduce the amount of cars in the downtown area? And if that's part of the goals, to reduce congestion, does it help to provide more parking structures, or does it help to not provide parking structures and rather encourage the use of cars on the outskirts of town using pedestrian and bicycles? Or can you just speak to, I know that car congestion is a concern. And so what is the philosophy, or how does that work? How do you incentivize people to be on foot per se, or those that can?
Well, this is an absolutely excellent question. We know from the kinds of downtowns that have been designed and built in Southern California over the last 20 years that the best way to design a downtown relative to parking is to provide parking garages that in their totality, in their number of cars that they provide overall, would be less than the parking necessary for parking every single building on every single use downtown separately. For example, in the average, a downtown of the intensity of what might get in Burbank in 20 years would be operating like Beverly Hills or Pasadena or Riverside or Santa Monica, which are cities that have had Park One systems for 20 years now, would be operating probably in the general standard of 2 to 2.5 cars per 1,000 square feet of commercial activity. and similar, and in a typical city situation, particularly along a corridor, these parking standards will be sometimes twice this much. Why are these cities working with lesser parking is almost obvious, and that is that people leave their cars in the street or park them in garages, and then they start walking. And as they start walking from activity to activity, they don't need a second, third, fourth, fifth parking space. So in the aggregate, a pedestrian environment of the kind that Burbank already is, and of the kind that could be even more intense in the future, would generate more activity with less necessity for parking. That is both the theory and the practice in the way parking and building are related in numerical terms and in terms of ultimate function in city centers.
And just to add to that, the one thing that we will be doing through this process is we will be doing parking inventory and analysis to see where we are with parking currently. Do we have enough parking? Is there a need for more parking? And that'll kind of help us determine as we move forward to beginning to figure out what parking requirements should be for new uses. So that we can ensure that, we're providing the parking that's going to be used. The one thing I will say about downtown Burbank is that there is a lot of parking, and it's very accessible parking. You've got parking at the Burbank Town Center. You've got parking in the collection, the AMC garages, and a lot of the garages that are attached to the office buildings are also used as parking in the off hours. So there's a lot of parking in downtown, and I can speak personally. When I come to downtown Burbank, I'll park my car in one of the structures, and if I go see a movie or go to a restaurant, I'll walk around because everything is within walking distance. So the goal would be to look and see where we are in terms of what parking we have, what the inventory is, and what can change. The hope is that as we allow more housing, we'll have people that are already in downtown. So they will have their car parked, or they may not have a car, but they'll be able to accommodate their tasks, whether it be to go out to dinner or to go shopping, or to even go to the market. We've got some markets that are now within walking distance of downtown. So that would keep those cars and those trips off the street. So that would kind of be the goal that we're looking at. And of course, anybody coming into the city from outside, those that are working in downtown and coming through the Metrolink station, or those that are even wanting to visit, we would look at how to get them around downtown without a car. And that's where the walkability, the pedestrian amenities, the bicycle amenities, and all that come into play, so that we can allow people to not only walk, but if they have a bicycle, they can get to different parts of the city. And you'll see on a lot of the streets, we have bicycle lanes and the sharrows, as they call it, that are, beginning to create that framework for a good bicycle network in the city.
I would like to add that 10, 15 years ago, when transit-oriented development started, housing standards for parking were often in the 2 per unit territory. I think people thought that Southern Californians would not be commuting and or living in TODs without use of their cars or need for their cars. And in the last decade, these numbers have dropped significantly, sometimes under 1 per unit. And so in the course of this work, we're going to be working very seriously and with our transportation consultants, collaborating with them to arrive at numbers that are really constructive and real for Burbank at this time. And we'll be talking to you in the next workshops about what your impressions are of these numbers, and have some discussion back and forth directly with our technical consultants, because as we go forward, you need to both understand and accept how some of these things evolve in the definition of this plan. And parking is a big deal. It's a big aspect of this effort and will be a big part of this plan. And it operates, I think, on the Goldilocks principle. I mean, not too much, not too little, but just right. But what just right really is a very interesting subject, and we'll be working hard to get to the right number and talk to you about it as well.
The next speaker, you can now unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Do we have another speaker?
Next speaker, you can now unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Dion Mokhtari. I just want to take the time to thank you guys for taking the time out of your guys' day and presenting this vision that you guys have. So I appreciate that. I just have a few questions, if you don't mind answering them. So first off, just what are you guys doing in terms of sustainability, in terms of trying to get Burbank's greenhouse reduction plan? How are you guys contributing to that? And also, is Burbank's infrastructure in terms of our current water distribution systems and our electrical grid, can they handle the new demand that is to be expected?
Well, on the second point, the specific plan has to clearly examine those issues and comment on them, so that information would be forthcoming. And on the sustainability front, we'll be presenting a number of proposals about how to best address this in the context of Burbank's and Southern California's needs at this time. That'll be also part of our recommendations and of our ongoing discussions with you. And we appreciate your caring about it and telling us about it.
Yeah, and just to add to that, thank you for the comment. In terms of the sustainability front, the city is currently updating the greenhouse reduction plan that's been in place for several years now. So essentially, this project will keep in line with the requirements under that plan. But then we'll also look for additional ways to introduce sustainability into the plan. That is one of the goals, I think, of development nowadays, is making sure that we get something that is sustainable, because we've seen how some of the conventional development oftentimes is not. And then in terms of the infrastructure, just to echo what Stefano said, yes, we will include as part of the plan analysis and also in preparation for the environmental document that will be attached to the project for both infrastructure and sustainability, a discussion and analysis on how the plan will be consistent with that. So that will be something that we'll be looking at as the project progresses forward.
Next speaker, you can now unmute and introduce yourself.
So I'm seeing that a comment just came in, and this may be the speaker. So the question is there any inclusion of aesthetics, for example, public art? Is there, and then it's the same question. That's from Tamala again. So I can go ahead and take this one, Stefanos, and then if you want to kind of,
yes, please. Go ahead.
if you want to add in. Yes, we will be looking at aesthetics. Design will be a big thing for this, and I think there was a comment earlier about making sure that we don't have just a preponderance of kind of postmodern architecture coming into the city. So we will be looking at finding ways to encourage different types of architecture, whether they be traditional styles or whether they be more the modern styles. But really the goal would be to make sure that those buildings, as they kind of, intertwine themselves with the surrounding neighborhood and with the streets, are designed in a way that makes them easier for pedestrians. It kind of softens that realm. For the public art, we do have in the city currently an ordinance for public art. Depending on the size of the project, projects are oftentimes required to either provide public art on site or provide money into an in lieu fee or fund. So we can look at ways to encourage that. And as most of you have probably seen, a lot of the utility boxes in the city have been painted. So the city is looking at ways to incorporate that into the downtown, into some of the open spaces, and looking at what options we have.
Next speaker, you can unmute and introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, Dion again. I just want to ask one more question. So are you guys planning or sticking with the closure of San Fernando Boulevard, kind of make it like how Santa Monica has it?
That is actually a good question, and given the time that we're in, the COVID time, that is actually something that we will be looking at. We've definitely heard comments not only from other staff members and from the elected officials, but also from the community as to what their thoughts are. I know we had recently adopted a complete streets plan that looked at possibly reducing traffic on San Fernando Boulevard to one way, thereby increasing the width of sidewalks and providing additional space for bicycles and pedestrians. So as part of this, we're going to be looking to see what will be best for not only the pedestrians and the bicyclists, but also for the vehicle users and also for the businesses, because we've heard from some of the businesses that closing the street oftentimes means cutting down on some of the traffic that passes by their stores. So it's one of those things that we kind of have to look at from a balanced perspective to see, but there definitely is, I think, enough. I think there's enough interest to at least try to reduce the traffic that goes down San Fernando and get wider spaces so that we can have some more opportunities for outdoor areas and linear outdoor spaces for pedestrians, bicyclists, and for people to do things downtown on San Fernando Boulevard. There doesn't seem to be any more comments or questions, so let's see. So we're at about 15 minutes before our webinar ends, so if anybody else has any other comments, and the one thing I would also ask for is if anybody has any comments on the format of this evening's webinar or workshop. This is kind of a work in progress. We've had about 3 or 4 of these public workshops, and we're always looking for ways to make these more interactive. I wish we could all be together in person like we were doing them in the past, but for now we have to do things virtually. But if anybody has any comments or any suggestions or anything, any feedback would be helpful and will help us plan accordingly for our next workshops.
I also want to thank you on behalf of our team for your great questions. We will take them seriously into account, and we're very much looking forward to seeing you on December 17th.
So it looks like we may be getting... Zoning we have not yet gotten to that part of the discussion. The portions of this project that we have worked on is really just the analysis. We've kind of spent a lot of time looking at the existing conditions of downtown. And a lot of what we presented tonight was the fruit of that work. We wanted to see what the strengths of downtown were, what we had that was working, and that we could, further improve on. And then we also wanted to identify areas that we needed improvement. So the zoning and the specifics we'll probably get into later next year once we get past the visioning workshop, which is the next workshop. And then we kind of put everything together to give you kind of our foundation for the plan. But we will be looking at zoning, and like I said earlier, for those that have asked about what specific zoning will be in different areas, again, it's always a balancing act because we do have, we have established buildings and uses that have been brought in over the years under the current zoning. And so our goal would be to make sure that we can still accommodate them as much as possible, but really improve the zoning so that as these uses change or as we get new construction that comes in, it will allow for more flexibility in terms of the uses so that we can truly have a mixed use downtown. That means having not only individual properties that are mixed use, but just a downtown that has a variety of uses. So industrial, light industrial, commercial, and residential. And the one thing that we are seeing, at least in some of the industrial areas, like along the Victory Boulevard corridor, is that a lot of those areas are changing into media uses. And one of the issues that we faced with staff as we work with some of these changes in use is the parking. Because the way the zoning code works now, whenever you come in with a new use that requires more parking than what you currently provide, oftentimes you're unable to bring in that use without going through some kind of a zoning process to allow it. So our goal would be to try to identify those areas, see if we can make adjustments in the parking requirements. And that's where the parking study and parking inventory will come in handy as we look at those decisions.
Another comment by Chris Brakelos. Will businesses be taxed for these improvements?
So that's a good question. I'll start it, and then if anybody on the city side wants to add in, they can. Essentially, we're not looking at necessarily increasing taxes in downtown. What could be an option that we look at is finding ways to basically have new developers and people that are proposing new projects that are coming in pay what we call their fair share towards costs associated with making some of these public improvements, like providing more open space or providing improvements to the streets and existing open spaces. So that is one of the things that we will be looking at, and we're also conducting an analysis, a financial analysis, and a market analysis of downtown to kind of see how things are going from that perspective. And from that analysis, we'll get some options on how we can provide financing for some of the improvements that will come along with increasing density and increasing development in downtown. Okay, there doesn't seem to be anybody raising their hands, and we haven't gotten any new comments. So David, if you want to go to the last slide. So again, just to reiterate, thank you all for joining us this evening. Beyond some of the glitches that we had in our system, I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate all of the spoken comments and those that were written. We have been recording all the stuff that's been submitted, and like I said, we'll be providing a rundown of those comments and answers in the coming days. I'd also like to encourage each of you to visit the Downtown Burbank TOD website. You can continue to get updates, and we also have up there an interactive survey that mirrors what we've done tonight, but you can go through there and take that survey. And as I said earlier, we'll have that survey in Spanish and Armenian in the coming days. And just for those of you that are on, our next workshop will be about a month from today. It'll be Thursday, December 17th, 2020. And you can find the link on the website as we get closer to that date. So, Karen, do we have anybody else before we let everybody go. Okay, so we will go ahead and close out the workshop. Again, thank you everybody, and have a great rest of your evening and a good weekend and a safe Thanksgiving next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.